Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time, beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contain selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay. So we are at the third chapter of Era, page 281. Amazing what insights are found in any section of Torah and how many different types. Sometimes you have the same pasuk, and the chapters are, the explanations here are totally different topics. So, let's see.
I gotta take this quick.
That's my phone, not yours.
It's my phone. Mine too.
Oh, it's my phone.
Hello. I gotta just quickly because I'm in class.
Speaking of which,
Okay, I guess we could start.
So, Chaim, I have a question for you while we're waiting for Alan.
Yeah.
I'm here.
So we got the Shlach Manos yesterday. So are you allowed to partake from it even before it's Purim?
That's a very good question. So, just for everyone to understand, the yeshiva, as happens in many cities, we arrange Shalach Manos or Purim gifts where people order Shalach Manos, and the yeshiva makes several hundred and gets them delivered to people. So Rudy's question is, does this count as, are you allowed to eat it before Purim? Shalach Manos has to be done on Purim. So sending this does not count as Shalach Manos. Probably unless it's delivered on Purim. So if it's delivered before Purim, it doesn't even count as Shalach Manos, as the mitzvah. You don't fulfill the mitzvah. Aside from that, you may have to physically hand Shalach Manos, physically give it to someone. You can give it to someone to bring to someone else, but it probably should be done physically and not relied on through a third party like this, where you don't even see it, you just order it and then they deliver it.
So what is your
question?
Yes, but what does that mean for the people that ordered through this means, believing that they were going to be fulfilling the mitzvah of Shlach Manos?
I thought there was a disclaimer that said it does not fulfill the mitzvah.
There's a disclaimer somewhere. I thought it was in the box. It's not.
There's a disclaimer. I think on the order, when you order it, it does not fulfill the mitzvah Shlach Manos.
Yes, that is true.
So what happens if a person doesn't pay attention to that disclaimer?
And they didn't fulfill the mitzvah. It's a problem.
Yeah, but why not? Why can't their intention still count?
It has to be done this way. It has to be done on Purim. You know, if I wear a mezuzah around my neck, I don't fulfill the mitzvah of having a mezuzah. And if I put the mezuzah on the left side of the door instead of the right, I don't fulfill the mitzvah.
Yeah, but there's a whole long argument in Maseches Brachos about intent versus the act.
What does it say?
It says if you perform the act and you don't have the intent, do you still get credit?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is yes. And what if you have the intent but you don't properly perform the act, do you still get credit? And the answer is yes.
Really?
Yeah. Just that it differs, right?
Show
You're,
me.
sup- you're supposed to do the
Tell
act.
me where it says that.
What?
I'll
You
have
still-
to see what's written there so I can respond.
But I'll have to find it. But you still, if you have intent, right? And it's the proper intent, you still get credit. You don't get full credit.
If I see it, I'll be able to respond.
All
If I
right.
don't see it, I can't respond to it.
Okay. All right. Anyways,
We're going to talk a little bit about that actually in the class, but if you find where it says it, and then I can respond to it.
maybe it's more along the lines of the bracha itself. I'd have to recall. I have to find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, so now in Parshas Va'era, the Torah discusses the lineage of Moshe and Aaron, and it lists some of Aaron's descendants. The author says he has already written about the lineage of Aaron's soul. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to make connections throughout history, before Aaron and after Aaron, where his soul came from, and other people who shared his soul. Alan, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
281.
These are the names of the sons of Levi: Gershon, Chilkas, Merari, and the sons of Kichas are Amram, Yitzchar, the Chevron, the Ezekiel. And Amram took his aunt Yocheved for a wife, and she bore him Aaron and Moshe.
Okay, continue.
It is fitting to explain here the transmigrations of the soul of Aaron.
Okay, thank you. Number 2. The souls of both Aaron and Moshe originate in Yesod of Abba, as it is expressed in Ze'er Anpin. Both of them are extensions of Hevel, the son of Adam, who was killed by his brother Cain. So Cain was killed by, Hevel was killed by Cain. From the soul of Hevel, it goes into Moshe and Aaron. Go ahead, Alan, page 282.
I have already identified his original root many times, including in my comments on the verse, and a new king arose over Mitzrayim, in the exposition of the 3 children of Amram, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. I explained here how both Aaron and Moshe originate in the Yesod of Abba, as it is present in Ze'er Anpin, and how both of them are aspects of Chabel, the son of Adam.
Okay. Number 3.
May I interrupt for a moment?
What?
May I interrupt for a moment?
Absolutely.
So Alan read a word and there was no discussion about it. So I think it's important that we discuss it because it's oftentimes confused. And the word that he read was transmigration. And transmigration is not necessarily the same thing as reincarnation. So there is a delineation between the two.
Where did it
Reincarnation,
say transmigration?
I thought I just
Prior
heard it.
page.
You
The
did.
prior-
Okay, Rudy, what's the question?
It's not a question, it's just a point of clarity that people should realize that there is a difference between transmigration and reincarnation.
The Hebrew word is the same word that's used for both.
Well, that's interesting, but in
So
English,
wait. So
Mhm.
I'm assuming that the translator use them, at least in this case, interchangeably. Okay, and what do you want to comment, Rudy? Go ahead.
so differences through the use of example Pinchas, his soul was reincarnated into Eliyahu Hanavi. So one person's soul goes into another person. Transmigration is our soul is comprised of many different parts of souls. We could have multiple souls within our one soul. And those parts of the soul that we possess are there for us to perform a certain mission, whether it is to give tzedakah in a certain way to a certain individual in a certain point in your life. And once you've fulfilled that mission, that portion of your soul transmigrates. It leaves your soul and it either goes back to Shemaim or it goes into another soul. So that's the difference.
And the interesting part on that is that in the bottom of the page, which we will come to soon, he uses the word reincarnated. So he's using them interchangeably.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Rudy. There is a difference. The Hebrew word for it's usually used for reincarnation, and here that's used too, where he uses the word transmigration, is Gilgul. Word Gilgul literally means, or it's related to the word for around or rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Something that rolls.
So that you're saying that
or maybe even recycled. I doubt it's the Hebrew word today for recycle, but it would be something like to roll or to recycle, something like that. Is Gilgul.
So Gilgul is transmigration then.
I'm hearing you. I
Mhm.
can't comment because I don't have. I have nothing. Not familiar with that at all.
Okay.
They use them both for transmigration and for reincarnated.
Yeah, I know, but it's not the same thing.
There is a different concept where a soul enters a body, and that's called a different Hebrew word. That Hebrew word is davak, or like dibik.
Yeah, but
like
I'm not
famous play.
possession. I'm not talking about possession.
And that is the Hebrew word means to cling. Davak means to cling, where the soul attaches itself like onto another soul or piggybacks.
Right. And the colloquialism is dibuk, a dibuk.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the colloquialism.
Mhm.
But I'm not referring to it as possession. It's not a possession. It's not that you're not even aware. Well, even if there's a dibuk, you're not aware, not necessarily aware. But in transmigration, there's a part of your soul that allows that departs when you have performed a certain mission in your life. Some people have a life's mission, and when they perform that mission, Hashem calls them back. Some people have multiple missions in their life, many different paths that they have to go down. And the instigation of that particular path is that particular part of a soul that transmigrates into yours.
Okay.
As opposed
Thanks.
where the entirety of Pinchas reincarnated in Eliyahu Hanavi. Anyways.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Up to 3. We just said that Moshe and Aaron were extensions of Hevel, the son of Adam. Avraham was thrown into the furnace in Ur Kasdim by King Nimrod for breaking the idols in his father's store and espousing faith in one Hashem, creator of heaven and earth. We know that Avraham survived the furnace, and King Nimrod banished him from the kingdom. Avram's brother Haran waited to see the outcome of Avraham's ordeal. When he saw that Avraham survived, he too professed faith in Hashem. He was thrown in the furnace and died. Because of this incident, the family had to leave the country and they settled to the west in Haran, a town in Turkey. Okay, today in Ur Kasdim, it's just known as Ur. And I think it's mostly a archaeological site. If I'm not mistaken, there's a ziggurat there.
It's in Iraq.
What?
It's in Iraq.
It's in Iraq. I happened to look at a map yesterday for a different reason. Last night we were looking up Susa for Shushan in Iran, and so it's on the map. It looks not that far from Shushan, and it seems to be right near the near the mouth of the Euphrates River.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Gulf of Aqaba?
Yeah.
Okay. Not too far. All right. Where are we? Oh, hold on, folks. The Torah says, Terach took his son Avram and his grandson Lot, son of Haran. The initials of the three words Lot and Haran spell Hevel, the murdered son of Adam. This is because both Haran and Lot were extensions of the soul of Hevel. All souls of the earlier era began to be repaired through the family of Abraham. So from Hevel, we said that went to Moshe and Aaron. Okay, first it went to his son Haran and grandson Lot. I'm sorry, to the Avram's brother Haran and his nephew Lot. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
It has also been explained in my comments in the Parshat Noach on the verse, and Lot, the son of Haran, his grandson, that Havel's name is alluded to in the initials of the words Lot, the son of Haran. For Lot ben Haran, Lamed Beis Hey. This implies that the souls of both Lot and Haran were aspects of the soul of Havel, as I have explained on the verse, and a new king arose over Mitzrayim. All the primordial souls began to be rectified by the souls of Abraham's family.
Okay, thank you.
Next also, I think.
Nope, not yet.
I thought you did that already.
Okay. Abraham's soul was an extension of Hevel.
Oh, okay.
The soul of Abraham's brother Haran had great holiness mixed in, but he did not repair his soul as much as Abraham. He was burned al Kiddush Hashem for the sanctification of Hashem's name, although it was not with a whole heart, being that he waited to see what would happen to Abraham.
Exactly.
I mentioned that before in this story.
Yeah.
He waited to see what would happen to Abraham, and when Abraham came out okay, he said, "I also believe in Hashem." And they said, "Well, we don't care what happened to Abraham. You're going to go to the furnace too." He expected to be saved, just as his brother Abraham, and he wasn't. He burned. Which, for one thing, it emphasized the miracle of Abraham.
His intentions weren't true.
Right. Although he did die al Kiddush Hashem, but it was lacking.
Yeah.
I guess he expected to be saved, or hoped he'd be saved like Abraham. Okay. Go ahead, Alan.
Abraham as well was an aspect of Havel and Haran. Abraham's brother possessed in his soul an admixture of great holiness, although he did not rectify the aspect of Havel's soul within him as much as his brother Abraham did. And it is known that he was burned for the sanctification of Hashem's name, albeit not wholeheartedly, since he waited to consign himself to the flames until he saw that Abraham was miraculously saved from the furnace. Terach complained about Avram, his son, before Nimrod for crushing his idols. So he, Nimrod, cast him, Avram, into a fiery furnace. And Haran sat and thought, if Avram is victorious, I am on his side. And if Nimrod is victorious, I am on his side.
And very easy.
When Avram was saved, they said to Haran, whose side are you on? Haran said to them, I am on Avram's side.
I'm on the winner's side.
They cast him into the fiery furnace, and he was burned. Thus Haran threw himself into the flames, thinking he would be saved. And therefore his act did not qualify as a public sanctification of Hashem's name, as did Abraham's. Nonetheless, his act was motivated out of recognition of the truth of Hashem. The fact that he recognized this truth and was willing to take something of a chance for it indicates that he did possess some level of holiness.
Okay. Now, the soul of Haran was born into Aharon. Aaron contains the letters of Haran with the addition of Aleph. Haran is He Resh Nun, and Aaron is Aleph He Resh Nun. Since his faith in Hashem was not complete, like Abraham, his death al Kiddush Hashem did not repair his soul completely. He thought he would be saved like Abraham. So his Mesiras Nefesh was lacking. Okay. Alan, bottom of 282.
Haran subsequently was reincarnated as Aaron, whose name, Aaron, Aleph He Resh Nun, possesses
Yes.
Go ahead.
Do you have a question, Abigail?
I didn't
No.
say anything.
Oh, I thought someone did. Since he did not throw himself with the addition of the letter Aleph, since he did not throw himself into the furnace in Abraham's days until Abraham was saved, and did not sacrifice himself for the sanctification of Hashem's name as he should have, this act did not help him, for he only threw himself in because he thought he would be saved, as was Abraham. Therefore,
What?
would you go on?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. Now, switch gears. When the people in the desert saw Moshe had not returned, they demanded a new God because they thought Moshe had died. I do want to point out, Aaron said to everyone, give me your gold. They all gave it to Aaron. He put the gold over the fire. He stirred the fire and so on. And he did not intend to make a golden calf. The golden calf came up on its own. The Torah, I'm thinking about it. I don't have it in front of me. But I think the Torah does say, or seems to say, that Aaron made a calf out of the gold. But based on every interpretation, there were other forces that influenced the melted gold or the molten gold to take the shape of a calf.
Again, which parsha is that in?
Ki Sisa. So that's why I don't say that the people wanted to make a golden calf. They didn't want to make a golden calf. They wanted to make an image, but doesn't say what it was. But some of the people there had an influence, and a few of the people, and a golden calf came up.
There's a sikha on that. Or maybe it's a mimer where the Rebbe talks about how it's related to Taurus and the astrology, and it was logical.
Mm-hmm.
And he contrasts that the women had faith and the men had intellect. So, which
And the
fits, right?
intellect led
with what
them
we're
astray.
talking about. It fits with what Haran did, right? He found knowledge And based on knowledge, he was willing to go into the fire, but it wasn't based on faith.
Interesting. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so that's why I write here. Thank you. I like that. That's why I write here that he did not, that they didn't set out to make a golden calf. Aaron had a chance to stand up to them. If they would have killed him, it would have fully repaired the damage to his soul. That Haran, what was lacking by Haran. Okay, go ahead, Alan. 283.
Therefore, when he was reincarnated as Aaron, he was faced with the situation of the golden calf. Hashem presented him with the people's request, get up and make us a god, which he should have refused, and on account of which being killed, thus sanctifying Hashem's name in public.
All right. Aaron's nephew, Hur, the son of Miriam, did stand up to the people. His soul was not primarily from Haran, but some of Haran's soul was mixed in. Through Ruach HaKodesh, divine intuition, he understood that the soul needed repair. And he spoke up and was killed by the people who wanted to make a new god. This way, he corrected what Haran missed out on. I know I got two prepositions at the end of the sentences right there. Okay. So in other words, there was Aaron and Hur, and the people confronted them. Hur spoke up, he stood up to them, and they killed him. And Aaron didn't speak up. We'll come to that part of the story soon. Go ahead, Alan. 283.
Yes. This, in fact, is exactly what Hur, Miriam's son, did. His soul was a soul spark that was intermixed with the soul of Haran, even though the soul of Haran was not actually its source. It has been explained that soul sparks can intermix with one another, even though they do not derive from the same root. Hur understood in his prophetic inspiration that he had to rectify this sin, that is, that of Haran, and therefore protested the building of the golden calf and gave himself over to be killed by the mob on this account.
Okay. 9. The Torah says, Aaron saw and built an altar before him. The Medrash points out that the word for build is similar to the word for understand. Let me put this in. Whoa. So to understand. Okay. Bana is like bina. Interprets the verse, the Medrash interprets the verse, Aaron saw and understood about the person who was killed before him. When Aaron saw that his nephew Hur was killed, he understood it would be futile for him to protest, and it would bring, it would just bring greater liability and faults to the people if they would kill him. And so he chose a different tactic, to do everything himself and slow the process. That's why he took care. And he says, I'll do it, I'll take charge. And the people allowed him to. And he went very slowly. And he said, and when he finished, he said, go home. Tomorrow morning, we'll come back and have our worship, our service. and the next morning he knew Moshe would be down. So he was looking just to stall, and that nothing should happen until Moshe came. We all know that the people didn't wait for the morning, and they had whatever offerings, celebrations, and so on throughout the night.
I don't buy that. Never have.
That what?
I don't buy it. That what Chaim just said, that's the reason
Oh,
that he looked at Hur and decided not to stand up for what was right. This is the Kohen Gadol.
There is
Far different than Hur, and I think that's why, and this is just my opinion, I think that's why he was silent when Nadav and Avihu were taken, because they were korbanos. He had a little blood on his hands.
We're going to speak about this more.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It's something that's come up a lot. I know it's other people have mentioned it to me when we learned it, and I think we've talked about it in this class too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I mentioned earlier the difference between intent and action, right? And that the ultimate is in proper intention, proper action. So the epitome, in my opinion, of proper intent and proper action is, oh my gosh, his name just escaped me. The
Pinchas.
gentleman who jumped into the Red Sea, Nachshon ben Nadav. He had no way of knowing. He just had such faith in Hashem that Hashem would deliver the goods, which he did. And it wasn't until the water hit the crest of his nostrils that the water parted. That was incredible intent, and it was an incredible act. And sometimes in life, that's what Hashem wants us to do against all odds, is to just take something on.
Take a leap of faith.
Sense. Yeah, it's even greater than a leap of faith. It's a leap to potential death, but you have such conviction in what you're doing is the right thing, and that it's going to lead to the betterment for all at your greatest risk. But yet he did it. Aaron, you can never compare Hur to Aaron and Aaron to Hur. It is impossible to compare the two. And just the power of his office, the power of Aaron's office spoke for itself. I mean, it's the old story that Rabbi Edelman, Zichron Levracha, he would tell his children is pasnished, right? Didn't have to yell, didn't have to scream, didn't have to do anything. He'd just say, it's pasnished. And they back off. They knew what they were doing was wrong. Aaron could have done the same thing. He could have said, this is not what I expect from you. But he didn't. He went along with the game. To buy time? No, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And if he had put his life at risk, Hashem would have performed the miracle and saved him. But this is all my opinion, so whatever.
Thank you. No, it's very well presented.
To go back a little bit, it does say in the Chumash that it says that Aaron fashioned the golden calf. But the commentary says his intent was not to do it, but the sorcerers of the Erev Rav made the calf come out instead of the lump that he'd hoped to come out.
Well, Chaim discussed this the last time we read this Parsha, and Chaim, you talked about the one, what is it, Medrash, that says that it had to do with a spat between the individual that learned about where Tor, where Yosef was also known as Tor or Hator.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is the little boy that Moshe rescued. Let's just wait for Abigail. There, the little boy that Moshe rescued from the being used as a brick. Hashem allowed him. He went and reclaimed or picked up the,
Parchment.
not parchment, the piece of metal. What do you call that? The plate.
Oh.
The metal plate
Plate.
of which Moshe
Yeah.
had written, Alei Shor, arise ox, that he went to get Yosef's coffin or body from the river. What?
Sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus. The
Mhm.
sarcophagus from the river, and the little boy took the plate, and he threw it into the
Into
the
the fire.
fire, the molten gold, and this is how the thing went up. The ox. Later, we're going to learn, if you remember from 6 years ago, that the two sons of Bilam were the heads of the Erev Rav.
Yeah.
Eunice and Umbris,
Yep.
and they were their grandfather Beor. Their grandfather Beor had died, and his soul went into the grass.
Yeah.
And they made the ox that would eat the grass, and the Jewish people would sin, and this way they would free the soul of their grandfather Beor. So there is a lot. Rudy, I would ask you to please be patient and see what the Arizal is going to explain on this. But I do have one question for you. If Aaron was guilty of this, of such of something so drastic, or such a gross violation
never said that he was guilty. I never said those words, but go ahead.
of this violation, would Hashem have chosen him to be the Kohen Gadol?
Yes, because that was his destiny to become the Kohen Gadol. And he deserved to be the Kohen Gadol. And I don't know that necessarily he takes the full blame. And I think this is really, I discussed this with Shirley years ago, and I think it's one of the most difficult questions of which there is no easy answer, because we don't really know the answer. It's all part of Hashem's plan. One could argue that it had to happen only through the hands of Aaron, because Aaron was Moshe's brother, and Aaron was the high priest. And it may not have even come about the way that it came about. And it was supposed to come about because one of the positives that we learn about the Egel HaZahav, the event of the Egel HaZahav, is that prior to that event, there was no such thing as national tshuva. National tshuva was created through the event of the Egel HaZahav, where everyone became penitent. That had never happened before. Hashem gave us that ability as a group to perform tshuva.
Right.
So,
Okay. So anyways, that's and then the other, there's another thing that in the Chumash, it's in the Rashi, I think it says that there is a pasuk in Eicha that if a Kohen and a Navi and a prophet of Hashem will be killed on one day. And Aaron said, my nephew Hur is prophet. I am a Kohen. If we're both killed on the same day, it will fulfill what is written in Eicha. And he said, better if it comes true, then the consequences will be really, really severe.
right.
And so he wanted to avoid that as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
because
let's-
I'm sure Aaron also, I mean, it's a known thing. He had Ruach HaKodesh, right?
Be patient and see what's written here. Okay. Yes. So Aaron. So the words Vayiven Mizbeach Lefan Vayaron Vayiven Mizbeach Lefanav is translated from between Bana and Bina. Not that he built, but he understood, saw what was going on and understood. And we'll see how this plays out. Okay. Alan, I'm sorry, Alan 283. I
Yes,
think this is in fact.
uh, we did that.
Yeah, go ahead.
This accords. This accords with the statement of our sages on the verse, and Aaron built an altar before him. Aaron understood from he who was slain before him. The word for and Aaron built is vayiven, which may also be interpreted to mean and he understood. The word for altar is mizbeach, which may also be read as mi zavuch, meaning from the one who was slain. The sages thus indicate that Aaron understood from the fact that the mob had killed her for opposing the building of the golden calf, that it was pointless for him to oppose it as well, since they would then simply kill him too and proceed to make it anyway.
Okay. The Arizal explains that Aaron understood that he needed to give up his life to fully repair the soul, which where Haran fell short. When Haran was thrown into the furnace. When Aaron saw that Hur was killed, and Hur had aspects of Haran's soul mixed with his, Aaron thought that the soul was fully repaired and it was not necessary to give up his life as well. This was a mistake on the part of Aaron. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Our sages derived this from the word "and he built," but in truth, had this word been meant to merely imply that Aaron saw that it would be pointless to resist the mob, it should have said "and he saw." Rather, the deeper implication in our sages' words is that he understood in his prophetic vision that he should have rectified the aforementioned sin of Haran by giving up his life to publicly sanctify Hashem's name.
Yeah.
But he thought that since Hur, who was an aspect of Haran, as we said, had already offered his life to rectify this sin, it was no longer necessary for him to do the same, inasmuch as the sin had already been rectified by Hur. But he erred in this.
Okay, 11. This goes up to, my notes go up to 13. Okay, once again, switch tracks. At the end of his life, Moshe recapped major events from the desert in the book of Devarim. Moshe said Hashem was angry at Aaron and wanted to wipe him out. In Tehillim it says, he said he would destroy them, had not Moshe, his chosen one, stood in the breach before them to turn back his wrath from destruction. Although the context there does not mention Aaron, it is written regarding the people who made and worshiped the golden calf. From the word turn back his wrath, it implies that the wrath already had some effect, after which it was repelled. The term wipe out, Hashem was angry at Aaron and wanted to wipe him out, refers to losing one's children. Our sages teach that Aaron deserved to lose all his children due to Moshe's prayers. 2 died and 2 were spared.
There you go.
The older 2, Nadav and Avihu, died. The younger, Elazar and Itamar, did not die. In the text in our book that Alan will read, the word breach is misspelled. I have it here I marked to correct it. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Therefore, it is written, and Hashem was angry at Aaron and sought to wipe him out, and death was decreed on his sons. As it is written, and Hashem intended to wipe them out, and would have done so were it not that Moshe, his chosen, stood before him in the breach to return his wrath from destroying. Nonetheless, returning wrath implies that the wrath had already had some effect, and this was indeed the case here. Our sages state that wiping out implies destroying progeny, and Moshe's prayers turned back half of the decree. Thus of Aaron's 4 sons, Eleazar and Itmar remained, and only Nadav and Avihu died. Our sages point out that this is the meaning of the verse, and Moshe became angry at Eleazar and Itmar, according Aaron's remaining sons.
Okay. The day that, where are we? Yeah, let's change tracks again. The day the Mishkan was dedicated was a day of great celebration. Nadav and Avihu ran to complete the service. Can you all hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nadav and Avihu, I'm getting messages on my computer. It's a problem with the audio. Nadav and Avihu ran to complete the service. They brought the Ketoret, the incense offering required of every Kohen on his first day of service. However, they did so before instructed by Moshe, before they were instructed by Moshe.
For space, yeah.
The fire went forth from Hashem and killed them. Their offering is called a fire that was foreign to the altar. It is interesting to point out that when the Mishkan was set up for the first time, the Torah repeats that Moshe, Aaron, and the Jewish people did what Hashem instructed 19 times. This plays up the importance of following Hashem's directions for the Mishkan and its service carefully and not deviating or injecting your own agenda into the Mishkan.
So much for intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is something that's very common today. People not inject, but impose their own agenda on what the Torah teaches. And they'll bend the Torah. They'll speak in the name of the Torah, but they'll bend the Torah to support whatever their agenda is, whatever ism they happen to be pushing at that time. Okay.
That's one of the great misdeeds of mankind, is using God as an excuse to impose your own agenda. Look at the Crusades.
Yeah.
Vote as Aaron.
Yeah.
My biggest fear.
The what?
My biggest fear is I write about women
What?
twisting the Torah.
You have all these Jewish groups or movements, organizations that speak in the name of Judaism for whatever for whatever
Cause.
thank you, for whatever cause it is. You know, there used to be, yeah, all of us are old enough, you used to remember the big one in the 80s was Save the Whales.
Yeah.
But whatever, you know,
Is that Jewish? That was
No.
Jewish? No.
No, it's just a big bumper sticker. I think I was in Boston that year.
Now it's, and I'm probably going to get flack for what I'm saying, but
Don't
now,
bother.
now it's
It's the earth.
Now it's what?
now it's Save Ukraine.
You know,
We're
It could
getting
be-
envelopes. We're getting envelopes from every Jewish organization you can imagine now to donate to them so that we can donate to Ukraine. But I doubt all the money is going to go to Ukraine. It's going to stay in some of their pockets. So
I'm thinking more of social, social issues. But
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah,
Whatever movements there are, right or not right, but whatever movements, and it's tied to Judaism. All right, go ahead, Alan. We'll do a little bit more. No, we'll stop.
The reason why specifically Nadav and Avihu died is that they too sinned with respect to foreign fire. The
Yep.
Hebrew term for idolatry is foreign service. that is any act that expresses devotion to something or someone other than Hashem. When the tabernacle was inaugurated, Nadav and Avihu brought an incense offering on their own, in addition to the offerings Hashem had explicitly required. This unsolicited incense thus fell into the category of foreign fire, which is forbidden to be brought onto the altar. Even though their intentions were worthy, they brought their offering as an expression of their own ecstasy rather than as fulfillment of Hashem's will. Thus, their act was in effect more one of self-service than of divine service, and therefore could be considered in a subtle sense as an act of foreign service or idolatry. In this sense, they were perpetuating their father's sin of not opposing idolatry at all costs.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Very
The-
interesting.
Oh, I have two more. For this alone, they were not liable for death. When we stop, we should have time for comments and thoughts, feedback. For this alone, they were not liable for death. However, combined with the misdeed of Aaron not to put his life on the line to stop the golden calf, as Hur did, Nadav and Avihu did deserve to die. Elazar and Itamar, who did not sin with Ketores and only had the misdeed of Aaron on the record, were spared through Moshe's prayers. Go ahead, Alan.
Still, they would not have been liable to death by burning on account of their sin alone. But being Aaron's sons, they were liable to be burnt on account of his sin in not submitting himself to be burnt in the incident of the golden calf. The combination of both their own sin and their father's caused their death, and thus Hashem's wrath found its place to rest. In the case of Elazar and Itmar, however, who did not sin, Moshe's prayer was effective.
And finally, just as Haran was burnt to death in the lifetime of his father Terach, Nadav and Avihu died in the lifetime of their father Aharon. Page 285.
Understand this as well. Just as Haran was burnt and died during the lifetime of his father Terah, so did Nadav and Avihu die during the lifetime of their father Aaron by fire.
Okay. What 15 and 22? Get ready for next week. All right.
Well, the 15 doesn't go there. That's okay.
If I remove it, I think the 16 goes away. I need text by the 16. So
Oh,
I have to wait for that for next week.
You have to write 15, don't you?
What?
You have to write the text for 15.
Yeah, but if I
Oh.
change it, if I try to change it now, since there's no text at 16, that's the 16 will go away.
Oh, okay.
So I'll do it next week. Okay. So feedback, thoughts.
Oh,
I was wondering if there's any significance in the when Aaron saw and understood that he shouldn't let himself be killed. Is there any significance in seeing? Does it bring anything to mind? That he understood based on sight.
Give me a minute, okay? I wanna. Okay, I think I have everyone here. Give me a minute. Let's look up, see what's written. We started on page 281. We went to 284. So the Torah says, okay, so first of all, a few things. Aaron said to them, remove, first of all, here's some random stuff that's going on here. The people said, make for us gods, or a god, who will go before us, for this Moshe, the man, for this man Moshe, who brought us from the land of Egypt, we don't know what became of him. So he said, now that we don't know what happened to Moshe, we need a new god. Okay, Moshe was not their god. He was only the leader. Moshe said, remove the golden rings in your ears of your wives, sons, and daughters.
Aaron said that, not Moshe.
What did I say?
You said Moshe said it.
Aaron said. You are right. Aaron said. And the people went. We know the Medrash explains. The people went. Their wives told them they're crazy. They're not giving their gold for anything like this. So the people unburdened themselves of the golden rings in their ears. The people gave their own earrings, the men, and brought it to Aaron. He took it from them and bound it in a scarf, made it into a molten calf. Okay, so that's what you said. He made it into a golden calf, into a molten calf. But
he just threw it into the fire.
Rashi,
yeah.
Yes, Rashi says Aaron cast the gold he collected into the fire in the crucible. The sorcerers of great conglomeration of non-Jews who ascended with the Israelites from Egypt came and made it through witchcraft. There are those who say Micha was there, who came out of who was saved by Moshe from the row of bricks in which he had been crushed in Egypt. He had in his hand an inscription of Hashem's name and a plate on which Moshe had written, Alei Shor, rise ox, with which to raise the coffin of Yosef out of the Nile. He cast it into the crucible, and the calf emerged. One moment. Okay. They said, these are your gods, Israel, or this is your God, Israel, depends how you translate, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. Aaron saw and built an altar before him. Aaron called out and said, a festival for Hashem tomorrow. Rashi says, these are your gods, Israel. Why didn't they say this is our God? From here we see that it was the Erev Rav, the great conglomeration or the mixed multitude, who were the ones, the
behind it all, yeah.
The ringleaders. Aaron saw that it had life to it, as it says in the Tillim that they made an image of an ox eating grass, and Aaron saw that what he was up against. He saw if this calf has what's that, living, if it's they were able to bring it to life. He realized that the Satan's involved, and the best thing he could do, that he couldn't completely push them off, so he built an altar to delay, and he said, what's it called? A holiday from tomorrow, because he knew Moshe would come down in the morning, and then that would they would forget their plan. They would drop their plan. The Medrash in Vayikra Rabbah, which I don't have here, says Aaron saw many things. He saw Hur, his sister's son, who had rebuked them, and they killed him. And this is what it means. He built an altar before him. If you change the vowels, it is, he understood from the one who was slaughtered before him. He saw more and said, better that the foulness of this sin be attributed to me and not to Israel. He saw more. If they build the altar, this one bring a pebble, that one a rock, and the work would be found to be done at once. Since I am building it, I will dawdle in my work. and Moshe will come down in the meantime before the work will be completed. He was certain that Moshe would come before they worshipped, and he said, "Of tomorrow's a holiday for Hashem." Okay, so that's a few things there.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, feedback, insights? Insights with an S, not with a C.
Well, I've often wondered how it is that this event receives all the attention and caused Hashem to be so angry with Bnei Israel to the point where he went to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, "Your people are sinning. Go after your people." And he wants to destroy everyone and make a great nation out of Moshe. We know the story. But yet it was only 3,000 souls that engaged in this witchcraft, right? And there we have the sin of the spies, and a plague comes after, and you got what, 21,000 people, and
24,000?
24,000, and what's their salvation? They have to fashion a copper nachash and put it on a pole and look up at it, and that's going to save them. So one could argue, well, isn't that idolatry? But it's not, because that's what Hashem told him to do. But yet that was the breaking point, right? The sin of the spies was the breaking point.
Yeah.
It was what cast us into the desert. If it had just happened with the Egel Zahav, we wouldn't have had to get lost for 40 years, right? So
the spies was the 10th one.
the spies was it. That broke the camel's back. And that was it. But it's the Egel Zahav that gets all the attention. So it's just, I find it very interesting. I find this part of our history to be filled with more questions than there are answers.
Yep.
Not always the case.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it was all basically witchcraft. And gold wasn't even the most valuable mineral at that time. It was silver. Anyways,
Silver hasn't moved. What is it, 25?
it's 25. Wow.
Silver?
Wow.
Let's see. Silver is crazy low. See it? 24.91, 25.01.
What is it normally?
There is no normally.
Or what's average?
Usually, historically, I think it's I think
Single
it's 1/18th of gold. Last few years, I think it's been 1/60th of gold.
Mhm.
But in the recent years, in the peak, was it like 10 years ago or so? It hit, or more. It did hit close to 50. It stayed at 32 a long time. Then it was at 17, 15, 13 a few years ago. Silver is much more, usually it's more volatile than gold. But gold, shot up. It pulled back a little bit. Now it's in the
What's gold at
1900s. Huh?
What's gold at now?
1922. But I think it was over 2000 a week or two ago.
Okay.
Gold is much more stable usually. But silver is like 10 years ago, I think it was 32, 34, and they spoke to some big investor. I remember if it was Warren Buffett, someone else, and they said, "No, it's too high. We're going to wait for it to go down." And what do you know? It went over the years. It went down to 13.
Huh. Amazing how that happens, huh?
Remember, we're still being recorded.
Are you thinking of the M word, Rudy?
You're still recording, remember?
Yes. Do you know what the M word is?
You mean manipulation?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Nah, it doesn't happen. Nah.
No.
Actually, countries have to have gold. They actually borrow gold from each other. And sometimes they'll say we have X amount of gold, and then they'll lend some of that gold to another country. So the other country could claim the gold, but the gold will be counted twice. By the lender and by the borrower. And that is a scam.
Yeah.
But it's part of the deception in financial world.
It's all
Yeah.
smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, everyone. Have a good evening. Chaim,
Great.
thank you for a wonderful class.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Okay.
It's very
Happy
good. Thank you guys. Have a great week. Happy Purim.
Happy
Yeah.
Purim, everybody.
Okay.
And have
Bye.
everybody have an easy fast.
Easy fast.
Oh, yeah. That's right.